Hello and welcome back to another Gundam review. Today we'll be taking another look at the RX-78-2 Gundam Revive. The RX-78 Revive was actually my first review, and this is actually a celebration of hitting 1,000 views on my channel. I figured it'd be a good idea to take another look at this since that first review was a little bit on the rough side. Hello everybody and welcome to a Gundam review. But anyway, let's start off, as always, with the articulation. Alright, now the Revive was touted as a really articulated figure, so obviously it's going to be fairly articulated. The head is using the standard polycap neck, which has a ball joint on either end. It's effectively a fancier barbell joint, which, decent side to side, okay backwards, pretty good forwards though, and a very easy 360 turn. The shoulders are on a upward facing polycap, and that along with the hinge inside the shoulder itself is so that it can pull off the final shot pose. Of course, this is on a ball joint, so it gets a full rotation at the shoulder. There's also, as you can see from the line, a rotation in the upper arm. This arm is a little tight on mine, this one's alright though. And it uses a polycap in here, so you don't really have to worry too much about it breaking. There is a double jointed elbow, up as far as it needs to go. Doesn't look too bad when it's fully bent as well, which is always nice. Sometimes you get double jointed elbows or knees that look kind of awkward when you bend them fully. And as always, the hand is on a ball joint. Now moving on to the torso, and at the waist you get a hinge forward, which if I remember correctly is on a ball joint, so you should get some, very slight side to side with it, but just because of the actual shaping of the parts, it's just a hinge forward, which, I mean, that's fine. That gets a pretty good bend. The waist is a swivel, which is on a ball joint, so you can get a bit more movement. Though if you move it too far, you can get a pretty obvious gap there, but it does mean that you can get more of a rotation. As you can see, the cutout is meant to limit the actual rotation, but it's super easy just to get past that. So the hips are on a rocking joint, side to side, as well as universal joint for the hips themselves. The front skirt are on ball joints. They are connected, but obviously you can separate them. You can get, if you rock the hips, a very high kick out to the front. Not super far to the back because the back skirt is solid, but I mean, that's still pretty commendable. Unfortunately, because of, well, just the shaping of the hip skirt, you can't get a full splits. However, you can rotate this slightly more to the back. You can get it pretty decently far out to the side. Any poses you really want to get outside of just a straight up spinning bird kick you can do. There is a rotation at the upper thigh, full 360 there. Double jointed knee, which gets back really nicely far. And the ankle is on a rock forward and back, as well as a ball joint. However, due to the shaping of this piece, you don't really get much rotation out of the ankle. Also, the ankle armor is on a hinge, which is nice. Getting into the accessories, and let's start off with the sticker sheet. Foil stickers. Thank you for focusing camera. You have the eyes, and the piece that this sticker goes onto is translucent yellow, which is why they give you these metallic stickers. You put those behind the eyes and paint the black in around them, and it gives more depth. personally, I prefer the look of this, and I don't really want to bother changing it, so just going to leave that. This is obviously for the crotch V. I painted it. I think it looks a bit nicer painted because you get the actual depth of it. And finally, you get the front and back head cameras. Next up, taking a look at the hands. We'll start with the ones that are currently attached. You get splayed hands, both left and right, which is always really nice. You get 2 holding hands, which can also be used as fists, but they don't include closed fists, so. Also you get a right trigger finger hand, which is useful for the next accessory, the standard RX-78 beam rifle, which has a movable secondary handle as well as a movable sight. Though technically this is a camera, but don't worry about it. This can be put into the hand just by separating it and lining up the trigger finger with the guard. Close it up. And that is a very solid connection. You also have the Hyper Bazooka, which attaches on to the hand the same way. The handle is hinged to allow for more dynamic poses. And there's one other thing you can do with this, which involves this piece, but we'll get to that in a moment. Next up we have the shield, which is mostly color correct. All the colors on the front are separate pieces, and the gray for the handle is correct. You may want to do some panel lining in here. I may want to do some panel lining in here. I may do some panel lining in here, actually. Not right now, but pig holes on the arm, pig on the shield. Also, the handle can just fit into the holding hands. Though, honestly, it's held on perfectly fine even without that. So if you want to get a pose with it at an odd angle, it's completely doable. Also, as you saw in the thumbnail, you do get 2 beam saber effect parts, which can just plug into the beam saber hilts. The beam saber hilts can just plug into the hands, and this is a very solid connection. And finally, the other thing you can do with the Hyper Bazooka, take off that little flap on the back, plug this in, and you can store the bazooka on the back. So there's a peg hole here, you can store the shield on the back. Unfortunately, there's nowhere to store the beam rifle. Slightly disappointing, but not too big of a deal. And for a quick size comparison, you can see that the RX-78 is completely average size for a high grade, which is fitting, I suppose. To wrap this review up, the RX-78 Revive is an absolutely excellent kit. It really did set a new standard for high grades. This kit comes with everything you want for this mobile suit, and is a very excellent representation of it. Not to mention, it's fairly cheap for a high grade, so there's really no reason not to get it. Anyway, that's been it for this review. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for future reviews, and watch my backlog. And as always, until next time, happy building.